عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. Certainly all praises are for Allah. Certainly we as Muslims sing Allah's praises. We laud Him. We mention His beautiful and perfect attributes and qualities. We invoke Allah, we call upon Him, we supplicate to Him, we thank Him, and we remember Allah Azza wa Jalla when we stand. And if we cannot stand, we remember Him when we sit down. And if we're unable to remember Allah sitting, then we remember Him laying upon our backs. And if a person is void of movement in a hospital bed, if a person only has his or her mind, your eyes, your self-consciousness, then you make the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. صَلِّ قَائِمًا فَإِن لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ فَقَاعِدًا فَإِن لَمْ تَسْتَطِعْ فَعَلَى جَنبٍ الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ. The Prophet ﷺ told one of his companions to pray if you can stand. You can't stand. You don't have the ability. You've lost your legs in battle. You become paralyzed. You have a serious wound and injury that prevents you from standing. Then pray sitting down. Or You can pray standing, but with a very strong difficulty. I can do it. I have the ability to stand up, but with a hardship, a problem, pain, agony, and suffering. But if I needed to stand up, I could. But there is a difficulty, a hardship, and a suffering which is unnecessary, and which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need, does not want, and does not like. Allah needs not the suffering of the slave. He doesn't want the suffering of the slave. And on top of all of that, Allah does not love the suffering of the servant. Pray if you can standing. And if you can't pray standing, or you can but it's a difficulty, then pray sitting down. And if you cannot pray sitting down because of a hospital, sickness, illness, a wound, whatever is bothering you, whatever situation you're in, you're tied up, whatever you may be going through as a Muslim, then at least pray lying upon your back. And if you can't do that, then you pray with your eyes. And the Muslim, the mu'min, is never ever void from the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Time to go to sleep with wudu, with tawbah, with Quran, ayatul kursi, sayyid al-istighfar, the night supplications, with the intention of waking up for Fajr, waking up for witr, whatever you wish to wake up for. You go to sleep with the correct intention and you're rewarded in your sleep. The believer is always upon the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, always praising Allah, always mentioning Allah's beautiful names and perfect attributes, always thanking Him for His countless gifts. We ask Allah for help. We ask Him for forgiveness and for pardon. And we ask Allah to protect us from the evils of our souls and the consequences of our bad deeds, our poor decisions. Those who Allah guides, no one can mislead. And those who are misled, there's no one that can guide them. I bear witness and I testify that Allah, along with our only partner, is the one who deserves all worship. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His servant and His messenger. May the prayers of Allah be upon him. May the peace of Allah be upon him. May the blessings of Allah azza wa jalla be upon him. May Muhammad's name be brought up, be mentioned, be extolled and exalted among the greatest of the angels. His wives, His companions, His family members, and all of the believers, the righteous, dutiful servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Amma ba'd. فقد قال الإمام البخاري رحمه الله تعالى في الجامع الصحيح: حدثنا عياش بن الوليد قال حدثنا عبد الأعلى قال حدثنا سعيد عن قتادة عن أبي المتوكل عن أبي سعيد رضي الله عنه أن رجلا أتى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال: أخي يشتكي بطنه، فقال: اسقيه عسلا. ثم أتى الثانية فقال: اسقيه عسلا. ثم أتاه الثالثة فقال: اسقيه عسلا. ثم أتاه فقال: ثم لما أتاه في المرة الرابعة، كما قال الإمام البخاري رحمه الله تعالى، فأتاه فقال: اسقيه عسلا، اسقيه عسلا. قال: صدق الله وكذب بطن أخيك، فسقاه فبرأه. أو كما قال رحمه الله تعالى: والحديث أخرجه الإمام مسلم أيضا. And Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhu narrated that one day the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam was approached by a man. And the man complained about his brother. He informed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about his brother's condition, his sickness and his illness. Yashtaki batnahu. He was ailing from his belly, his stomach was bothering him. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, Isqihi asalan. Give him some honey to drink. Give him some honey to eat or to mix it with water. Isqihi asalan. Let him take honey. So the man, he left and he came back a second time with the same complaint. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Isqihi asalan, give him some honey. Thumma atahu thalitha, he came back the third time. And he said, Isqihi asalan, give him some honey. And obviously the fourth time that the man came, nothing happened. The honey didn't do anything for his body. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, Sadaqallah wa kadhaba batnu akhika. Allah has spoken the truth and your brother's belly has lied. Sadaqallahu wa kadhaba batnu akhika. Allah speaks the truth. Allah is truthful. And your brother's stomach is either mistaken, and the literal translation, kadhaba batnu akhika. Your brother's stomach is not telling the truth. But Allah has spoken the truth. And He told him and He instructed him, Isqihi asalan, give him the honey. فَسَقَاهُ فَبَرَأَ. So he gave him the honey the fourth time, فَبَرَأَ. And he was healed, and he was cured. And Sahih Muslim and other sources of this hadith, it states that he says it's is that this man was suffering from diarrhea, severe and chronic diarrhea. He couldn't relieve himself properly in the proper way, and he was suffering from this stomach illness. And the Prophet ﷺ, he gave him advice, instruction, and the means of cure, and that was to take the asr. So the man came, he asked, he took the advice, and he left. He took what the Prophet ﷺ told him, but it didn't work. And the man came back a second time, and it didn't work. A third time, and it still didn't work. And he complained to the Prophet ﷺ, the honey only made him have even worse stomach issues. It made his cause of his sickness even worse. And that is when the Prophet ﷺ said, Sadaqallah wa kadhaba batnu akhik. Your brother's stomach is wrong, and Allah is right. Your brother's stomach is mistaken, and Allah is correct. Give him the honey. He gave it to him a fourth and final time, فَبَرَأَ. And then the man was cured. This is a beautiful prophetic hadith, which is authentic, and we learn from it many, many things. And we can reflect from it, or reflect upon it. And we can be mindful of this hadith with regards to our current state of affairs. How many of us suffer from stomach cancer, stomach ulcers? How many of us suffer from pains, agony? We have irregular and imbalanced habits of using the restroom. Too much, too often, not enough, and not at all. So people, they go to the doctor, they take pills, they take tablets, they drink drinks, they stop eating, they eat too much, and the list goes on. The hospitals are full, and they're making millions and millions of dollars every single year because of people's bellies, because of people's stomach, because what they eat or what they don't eat, and how they complain about things when they do not go right. And many people, they overlook the blessing of relieving oneself. Akramakumullah. You may say, why are you talking about this from the minbar on Friday? Using the bathroom and a man suffering from diarrhea. Isn't this inappropriate? Should you pick a sweeter topic, a simpler topic? How many of us have these health issues and these health problems? And then we look for a cure, we search for results, we search for the proper way, and then we look for belief and for faith. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Sadaqallah. Allah has spoken the truth, i.e. when he said in the Quran al-Kareem, وَأَوْحَى رَبُّكَ إِلَى النَّحْلِ أَنِ اتَّخِذِي مِنَ الْجِبَالِ بُيُوتًا وَمِنَ الشَّجَرِ وَمِمَّا يَعْرِشُونَ. And Allah, he revealed to the bee, he spoke to the bee, he instructed the bee, and he told the bee to take homes, dwellings, nests, combs, places of lodging and dwelling from mountains, from trees, وَمِمَّا يَعْرِشُونَ, and from that which the human beings build. Then Allah Azza wa Jalla, he told this insect, this small, minute, and in the eyes of many of you, trifling creature, ثُمَّ كُلِي مِنْ كُلِّ الثَّمَرَاتِ, and go from plant to plant, flower to flower, fruit to fruit. فَاسْلُكِي سُبُلَ رَبِّكِ ذُلُلًا, and tread the paths of your Lord, which are ذُلُلًا, يعني مُذَلَّلَةً, laid out, simple, plain, and easy. Traverse the facilitated paths of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah Azza wa Jalla, he then tells us about this bee, this small creature, this bug, this insect, this pest that we try to kill and get rid of and eradicate. Allah, he tells us that from its belly comes sharabun mukhtalifun alwanuhu fihi shifa'un lin-nas. From the bellies of these insects comes out a drink, a sharab. مُخْتَلِفٌ أَلْوَانُهُ, different colors, different tastes, different levels. How many types of honey are there in the world today? Variations. This one is dark, this one is light, this one is thin, this one is thick, this one is for this, it's for that, it's for this. فِيهِ شِفَاءٌ لِلنَّاسِ, in which there is a mercy and a cure and a remedy for mankind. In that, Allah says, إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَةً لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ, is a sign, is a proof, is a lesson, is a moral for people who use their minds, people who think. Something so small, so minute, so trifling, so bothersome, so pestful. However, it is of such a great benefit. So that is what the Prophet ﷺ said when he meant. That's what he meant when he said, Sadaq Allah. Allah has spoken the truth. That in this honey, this drink, shifa'un linnas, is a cure for whatever you're suffering from. وَكَذَبَ بَطْنُ أَخِيكَ, and your brother's stomach has lied. I.e., the administering of the honey. How much? How little? When? Before meals? Cold? Hot? Warm? What type of honey? Fil kayfiyya wal kamiyya. The dosage is something that you did incorrectly. Or you did the dosage correctly. You gave it to him before the meal, in the morning, before he went to sleep, a teaspoon, a tablespoon with wood and not metal, etc. But your brother's stomach, it just didn't agree with the honey. Or the honey didn't agree with his stomach. But Allah Azza wa Jalla has spoken the truth. Allah has spoken the truth. But your brother's stomach just isn't right. But Allah's words, Allah's legislation, Allah's way, Allah's path, Al-Islam, the Quran, the Sunnah, the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is correct. It's true. And it will be effective and impactful if you do it the right and proper way. And if it doesn't work the first time, then do it a second time. And it doesn't work a second time, you do it a third time. And if it doesn't work a third time, you do it a fourth time. And every time that you do it and you attempt it, you reevaluate the previous time. Maybe I didn't do it right the first way. My dua, because I was eating from riba. Because last night I struck my wife. Because I cursed someone. Because I have pride in my heart. And I feel and I think that I'm one of a higher caste above the rest of the people. You're low, peasants. I'm better than you. And then I raise my hands to Allah. And Allah didn't answer my dua. Allah didn't cure me. Allah didn't give shifa to my grandmother, to my uncle, to my son, and to my daughter. The man went, and he went. And he didn't stop. And he didn't quit. And the Prophet ﷺ did not change his advice. The Quran and the Sunnah doesn't change. It does not change. The rulings are clear. The instructions are clear. The wisdom is clear. But how you accept it, how you take it, how you administer it, that is what makes a difference. Just like a sword versus a staff. People will say that the steel is superior. For sure, the metal is superior. It's sharper, it's harder, it lasts longer. The wood is inferior. But the steel doesn't necessarily always cut through the wood. But it depends on the density of the wood, the hardness of the wood, the velocity of the swing, the stroke of the metal. These things, they have varying effects on the wood being broken and cut, or the piece of steel becoming bent and warped. Sadaqallahu wa kadaba batnu akhika. Allah spoke the truth, and your brother's stomach has lied. So the Messenger of Allah, والسلام, as we know, he was not necessarily a doctor. He wasn't a doctor of men's physical bodies, but instead he was a doctor of the hearts. He was sent to rectify the souls of the people. وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ, cleanse them and purify them inwardly, and of course, as a result of that, outwardly, and outwardly having an effect upon the inward sense as well. And the Messenger of Allah, in different occasions, he was asked about worldly things. What do you think about these trees, or these animals, or this battle, or so on and so forth? And the Prophet, he said, "Antum a'lamu bi dunyakum." He says, you know your worldly life more than I do. You know the affairs of the world more than I do. Look at this beautiful hadith. And Muslims who say that Islam is the cause of problems in the Middle East and North Africa and the Far East and this country. The reason why the Muslims are behind, the reason why the Muslims are suffering, the reason why the Muslims are imitating and copying and being subservient and submissive to the non-Muslims is because of them holding on to Islam. Mutakhallifin. They're stuck in the past. And the Prophet ﷺ says, "Antum a'lamu bi dunyakum." As far as the worldly affairs, you know better than I do. As far as honesty, putting your trust in Allah, praying on time, eating from the halal, and the list goes on, the spirituality never ever changes. 2020, 610, 1540, whatever year or place or location you're in, the believer is always upon dhikr. The believer always believes, always submits. The technology, the means, the medicine, the travel, etc., that changes. And the Muslims, when it comes to the worldly affairs, they should innovate. They should innovate. They should update. They should advance. They should learn and study. They should make things modern and accessible as far as the deen, as far as the character, as far as the principles. Then those things must remain ancient. I can now lie in 2020 because everyone else lies. And good guys finish last. In this wretched, miserable dunya, if you're honest, you'll be swallowed whole. You'll be ran over. If you're an honest person, you're naive, you're green. The people take advantage of you. You have to lie. You have to cheat. You have to steal. You have to have these ill feelings and these ill practices. And if you don't do that, then you won't survive. It's the mentality of people today. And that's absolutely wrong. Honesty doesn't change. Bravery doesn't change. Being chaste doesn't change. Being generous doesn't change. And your aqidah does not change. But the worldly affairs, they should change. And they will change, and they must change. Sadaqallah. Allah has spoken the truth, but your brother's stomach has lied. So when it comes to black seed, إِنَّ هَذِهِ الْحَبَّةِ السَّوْدَاءِ شِفَاءٌ مِنْ كُلِّ دَاءٍ إِلَّا دَاءٍ وَاحِدًا. This black seed is a cure for all sickness and all illness, except for one, and that is the illness of old age, of your body breaking down and falling apart and dilapidating and becoming decrepit. You can't escape death, no matter what you eat, no matter how much you work out, no matter how much organic things you eat. You cannot escape death. You will not live forever. Immortality is something that you will not obtain in this life. In the hereafter, there's eternal life. But in this life, everything must, Allah says, end. It's going to perish, it's going to go away. So black seed is a cure for all illnesses and all sicknesses. But how do you take the black seed? When do you take the black seed? How much of it? And the powder and the oil, do you crush it? What do you do? How do you administer the drug or the cure or the honey? Sadaqallahu wa kadhaba batnu akhika. Allah has spoken the truth. The honey is a cure, but you didn't do it the right way or the proper way, or most importantly, brothers and sisters, you didn't try hard enough. And that was 4 times. You attempted to get married, it didn't work, you quit. You attempted to go overseas and study, it didn't work out for you, you quit. You attempted to establish your own business, it didn't work, you quit. You try to make peace, you try, and it doesn't work, you quit. The believer is supposed to be tough. The believer is supposed to be tenacious. The believer is not supposed to know the word quit or give up. And the believer's skin is supposed to be ultimately thick. I'm going to try again and again and again, and inshallah ta'ala it will work and it will happen. And that's because sadaqallah, Allah has spoken the truth. Allah's promise is true. وَمَنْ أَصْدَقُ مِنَ اللَّهِ قِيلًا وَمَنْ أَصْدَقُ مِنَ اللَّهِ حَدِيثًا. Who is more honest than Allah? Allah says. Who can fulfill his promise more than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So this hadith is talking about honey. It's talking about a man's stomach. He had an ulcer. He had stomach cancer. He had something that was bothering him, something that was harming him. But it's deeper than that. It's greater than that. And it is far more applicable to the life of the daily Muslim in 2020. أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ. Alhamdulillahi wa kafah wa salatullahi wa salamuhu ala ibadihi alladhina istafa, amma ba'd. This hadith shows us, brothers and sisters, is that what Allah has given us is more than enough. What Allah has blessed us with is more than enough. What Allah, the Mighty and the Most High, has sent down is a cure for all sickness and for all illness. Mental, spiritual, and physical. Modern science, modern technology, medicine, these types of operations and surgeries, they do not contradict the Quran and the Sunnah. They do not go against the teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah. Rather, many of the leading bodies, boards, and organizations of health and of medicine and technology, they only learned these things from the Muslims. They only learned these things from those who took their knowledge from the Quran and from the Sunnah. And if you don't believe this, or you think it's an exaggeration, or you think it is a conspiracy, then read the books of history. And you'll find how they traveled to the lands of the Muslims. And they plundered, they stole, they borrowed, they traded, they bartered, and they took it back to their country. And they developed it. When the Muslims were fighting with each other, when the Muslims were bickering, when the Muslims were falling into innovations and sins and following their desires, they were at work. And they said, this is a miracle that these Bedouins have discovered. This is miraculous that these people have established of civilization, of culture, of science, and the list goes on. And then the Muslims today, after being conquered and colonized and ruled and brainwashed, they now say the Quran and the Sunnah is outdated and we must progress. We must evolve. We must change our ways. We must become Western and liberal and modern and progressive. And then we can reach what the old Muslims had. And of course the formula is 101% flawed because it's backwards. It's backwards for so many reasons. The first reason why it's backwards is the Prophet ﷺ stated, Sadaqallahu. The system has not failed you. Islam has not failed you. Rather, you did not practice Islam properly. You did not understand it properly. You did not do it properly. If you did, you didn't do it enough. You quit. You gave up. You lacked patience. Sadaqallahu. Your brother's son is lied. That's the flaw and the fault of the people, not the Quran and the Sunnah. Secondly, these people whom you look towards and you idolize, and you worship, and you believe that they have the cure and the remedy for every single problem in life today, they only base it off of what they took from the Muslims. But obviously the victor writes it history. I win the battle and I mention the statistics of the battle. I have access to everything and I tell you and the following generations of what actually took place. So open up your eyes, brothers and sisters. Open up your eyes, open up your ears, open up your hearts. Think about it. Ponder on it. And realize that Allah Azza wa Jalla never lies to us. And He never misleads us. He never wrongs us. And He never oppresses us. If we took this prophetic hadith and applied it to our daily lives, we will find so many things which will cause us to cry, and which will cause us to weep, and we'll be sad and disgusted and appalled. Some of the examples I previously mentioned to you. And there are other examples such as basic practice of the religion. I don't want to be religious because all of you who are religious, they want extreme. They want to stray. I don't want to go overseas and study. Look what happened to Fulan. He went overseas to Medina. He went to go study and look what happened to him. So therefore I'm not going to study. Can a man have more than one wife in Islam? No. It was only for the Prophet ﷺ. Only he had more than one wife. Polygamy today in 2020 is outdated. It's abrogated. It's mansukh. It's no longer a rule. Well, how can you say this, brother? Doesn't Allah Azza wa Jalla say, فَانْكِحُوا مَا طَابَ لَكُم مِّنَ النِّسَاءِ مَثْنَىٰ وَثُلَاثَ وَرُبَاعَ فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ. If you're afraid that you won't be just, then one. And Allah started off with two. Not one, then three, then four. And if you can't do that properly and correctly, then one. Doesn't Allah not say this? Does the Prophet ﷺ does not advise us to marry a fertile, loving woman? فَإِنِّي مُكَاثِرٌ بِكُمُ الْأُمَّةَ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. On the day of judgment, I will brag, I will boast about how many Muslims there are. Strength in numbers, power in numbers, virtue in numbers. So the Quran should not promote this. They say, no, brother, you don't understand. Look at brother Fulan. He got married to his second wife. Look what happened to him. Look what his second wife did. She complained. She did this. His first wife left him. She got a divorce. He abused the second one. He's abusing the system. He's on welfare. He's this. He's kevek. So therefore, because the people have failed, because the people are flawed, because the people are ignorant and lustful and heedless, and because the people at best are humans, no matter how righteous and pious they have mistakes, because they have messed up, now the system is messed up. And that's opposite to this hadith. Sadaqallahu wa kadhaba batnu akhika. Allah speaks the truth, and your brother's belly hasn't spoken the truth. The system is not flawed. The system isn't a problem. Islam is perfect. Anything in the Quran and the Sunnah, وَتَمَّتْ كَلِمَةُ رَبِّكَ صِدْقًا وَعَدْلًا. Allah's words are perfect and they're just. There's no mistake or inaccurate thing in our Islam. But the people's practice is a different story. We talk about Islamic government, ruling with the Sharia. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. Does the Quran not say this? أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الظَّالِمُونَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ أَفَحُكْمَ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ يَبْغُونَ وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ مِنَ اللَّهِ حُكْمًا لِقَوْمٍ يُوقِنُونَ. Does the Quran not say this? Allah says, do they want the ruling of Jahiliyyah? Is that what they want? They want the ruling of the Taghut, of kufr and shirk, of misguidance. You want to go back to the forefathers who made tawaf naked, who buried their daughters alive, who mistreated slaves and orphans, who were full of pride and prejudice and racism. You want to go back to the misguidance of those who believed that Allah had daughters from the angels, and that you could not get to Allah unless you went through a religious and righteous person. Is that what you want? You want the ruling of Jahiliyyah? Allah says, and who is better than Allah in judgment? But not for every single person. Not for every Tom, Dick, and Harry, Sally, Mo, and Tracy, Abdullah, Zayd, Bakr, and Amr. No. لِقَوْمٍ يُوقِنُونَ. Only for people who have certainty. So if you doubt Allah's ruling, if you doubt Allah's promise, if you doubt the authentic hadiths, if you doubt the Quranic verses, then it proves that you do not have yaqeen. You have no certainty. You have no certainty. So therefore, the ruling of Allah Azza wa Jalla, judging with what Allah has sent down, we say we're not going to do that in this country. The last country that put the Sharia in their politics, look what happened to them. Look at this country. They were invaded. They were bombed. Look at the extremists that came. Look what happened to women's rights and orphans and so on and so on and so forth. So therefore, we're republic. We're democratic. We have our own constitution. We can't rule with the Sharia because of our neighboring country. Sadaqallahu wa kadaba batnu akhihi. Allah spoke the truth. This is what happens. This is the rule. At this age, this amount, this punishment, this reward. That's Allah's rule. Wa kadaba batnu akhika. And the neighboring country, they did it wrong. They were mistaken. They were extreme. They didn't have the proper knowledge, or they had traitors and munafiqs within their ranks. And that's why the Sharia did not work out in their country. And it's example after example after example after example of how we put more trust on our own minds, feelings, opinions, culture, taste, science. And the list goes on, and we ignore and we overshadow the teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah, even though the Prophet ﷺ did not change. Could you imagine this now? Stop and think about this, brothers and sisters. You're a doctor. Someone comes into your office and he says, Doc, my stomach is killing me. I can't go to sleep. I can't do this. I can't stop using the bathroom. I can't hold anything. I can't. And you write the man a prescription. The man leaves your office. He comes back the next day. Doc, my stomach is killing me. I can't enjoy any food. I still have a problem when I use the bathroom. And he writes the same prescription 2-3 times. Could you imagine this? Would you keep going back to that same doctor? And would a doctor not change and diversify the prescription or the dosage? Would the doctor not say, well, let me do this test on you. Let me figure this out. But the Prophet ﷺ, because he was Sayyidul Muqineen, he was the master and the leader of those who had certainty. He did not change. He did not stop. He said, Isqihi hasanan. Give him honey. Give him honey. Give him honey. So your children, your husband, your wife, your student, your government, your leaders, your subjects, any relationship that you have as a human being, the correct advice does not change. Sheikh, give me some nasiha. Ittaqillah. Fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Give me some more advice. Ittaqillah. Give me a third piece of advice. Ittaqillah. Tell us something new. Give us something different. The advice doesn't change. Isqihi asanan. Keep giving him honey. And the scholars of Islam, and the doctors as well, they all say that there are secrets within the honey, which we don't want to mention right now. And we don't have time to mention that right now. And the topic of the khutbah is not about the miraculous nature of honey and the miracle of honey bees. It's not the topic of the khutbah. But from those benefits and those wisdoms is that raw, natural honey, especially on an empty stomach, it does something to the belly. It has a cleansing effect. And the things which prevent a person from being at rest and at comfort with regards to his belly comes from something that a person ate that remains in the belly. So the Prophet ﷺ, as if he told the man, tell your brother to wash his belly. Tell your brother to scrub his belly. Get everything that's bad out of it. And that's why he kept saying, Isqihi hasanan. And the hadith says that he kept eating the honey and he got worse and worse diarrhea. So the Prophet ﷺ, he told him to do something and the man kept coming back. So if you want things to change, step number 1 is what? Make sure that you're seeing the right doctor. Make sure that you're taking the correct prescription. Step number 2 is make sure that you're taking the prescription in the proper manner. Proper dosage before meals, after meals, 2 teaspoons, etc. Step number 3, you must be patient. You have to have sabr. The shifa doesn't necessarily have to come in 1 second. 1 day, 1 week, 1 surgery, 1 operation, 1 marriage, 1 year, 1 masjid, 1 country. It doesn't work like that. You have to be patient. Last but not least is that you must have certainty. And some scholars have said the reason why the man did not become healed the first time that he took the honey is that because his brother only wanted to try it out. He only wanted to try it out and he wasn't convinced. And what Allah had said specifically, not saying that the man was a munafiq, but for this specific issue, and this specific illness, the man just wanted to try it out. In other words, he had a full cup. He came to the table with information, with a thought, with a feeling. Instead of saying, "Oh, Messenger of Allah, tell me what to do for my brother." And the doctors, they unanimously agree, is that the patient's belief in the cure, and the patient's optimism, and the patient's good high spirits have a clear and strong effect upon the effectiveness of the medicine and the effectiveness of the surgery. So look at life. Are you a pessimist or an optimist? Do you have a positive outlook? Is the cup half full or half empty? Do you look at the people and only see their faults, their flaws, their mistakes, their errors? The people are ruined. The world is ruined. Everyone's going to the hellfire, of course, except for me. Of course, I'm in Jannah. And everyone else is going to the fire of hell. Everyone else. He's doing this sin. He makes this error. You're sitting wrong. You're blinking your eyes at me. You're having this type of jacket. It's all you see is negativity. What do you think is going to come from your words and your actions? But if you have positivity and you have optimism with being realistic, okay? We're not talking about living in a world of fantasy. But you're optimistic, you're positive, and you look forward to Allah's promise, what will take place? And that is what we find in each and every single Quranic story. Each and every single Quranic story. Bani Israel, they followed Musa to the bank, the shore of the Red Sea. And now it says Pharaoh's coming behind us with his chariots, his cavalry, his strong warriors. They'll capture us, they'll swallow us whole. And Musa, he told the Israelites, Kalla, no way. Allah is with me. And he told them, into the Red Sea. It's a huge, gigantic sea. He said, go into the sea. Second largest body of water in the world after the Amazon, the Nile. Okay? That's one story with Musa and his mother. And the concept of Musa with the Israelites going into that which they say the Red Sea. Both stories are applicable. Could you imagine this? A woman taking her newborn son and putting them in the second largest river in the world? Musa all of those people scared, terrified, hungry, whipped, beaten, tortured and oppressed. And he said, go into the sea. And look what happened to the sea. Look what happened to Musa. And there's story after story after story in which when the Muslims put their trust in Allah and they believed in Allah's promise and they went into Allah's instructions with positive outlook, we all know what happened. So be mindful of this, brothers and sisters, with regards to your mind, your spirit, and your body. We ask Allah to make our bellies pure, honest, and truthful. And we ask Allah to protect us from having bellies which are untruthful. We ask Allah to make our hearts receptive to the truth, accepting of the truth, submissive of the truth. We ask Allah to cure all of the sick Muslims wherever they may be in the earth. We ask Allah to bring might, honor, esteem, and prestige to Islam and the Muslims wherever they may be. And we ask Allah to make the statement of kufr the lowest in the land and the statement of Allah the highest in the land. وَسُبْحَانَ رَبِّكَ رَبِّ الْعِزَّةِ عَمَّا يَصِفُونَ وَسَلَامٌ عَلَى الْمُرْسَلِينَ وَالْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ.